Hello, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk with immigration attorney Brian D. Lerner. In this particular episode, I would like to talk about a particular kind of visa that not a lot of people qualify for. But if you do, it is a great way to come into the United States in order to obtain lawful permanent residency. It is called the EB-1, Extraordinary Ability Alien. And pretty much, if you were just to sum what the particular visa is like, it involves people who are at the top of their field, whatever the field is. There's no limitation on it. The Extraordinary Alien Ability Petition has all different kinds of fields and so forth. I mean, in the past, I've done ones such as golf coach, scientists, things like that. And just so you know, some of the successful applications that have gone out: aeronautical flow control research engineer, market research person, cardiology, pediatric research, life and environmental science, neuroscience research, nanotechnology. But it's not just for the sciences, for people who are at the top. There's been ones such as blues musician, violinist, Chinese art. There's been different ones in journalism. There's been ones in sports. People who are a judo coach, runner, swimming coach, taekwondo instructor, educator. So there's been lots of different ones, fields that have gone in. And so I'm going to go in this particular video into some specifics as to what would be required for the EB-1 and so forth, but I'm going to jump right in and give you one of the techniques that I use in order to get a better chance of winning the EB-1. Well, the bottom line is that the definition of an EB-1 says it's an alien with extraordinary ability in the sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics, which has been demonstrated by sustained national or international acclaim, and whose achievements have been recognized in the field through extensive documentation. And that particular foreign national wants to enter the United States in that particular area of expertise. And so if you have that as the definition, and again, I'm going to get in a little bit into some more specifics here, but what do you do to give yourself a better chance of winning? Because it's not easy. It's not easy to win a extraordinary ability alien petition. And so I'm going to give you an example. Let's say that you are an engineer, okay? If you are an engineer and you're trying to get an EB-1 as an engineer, it's never going to happen because there are so many engineers worldwide. There are so many different areas. There are so many different people that you have to compete against that it just doesn't happen that you're going to be able to realistically show the very, very top of this particular field. So what I do is I narrow it down. So I'll ask the person, I'll go, for example, what type of engineering are you in? What do you practice? And they might say something like aeronautical engineering. Well, even then, if you try to get an extraordinary ability petition, EB-1, for an aeronautical engineer, you're still up against a ton of people. You're still making life way too hard if you just use the, again, more narrow field of engineering, but a little more narrow than that. So then I'll say, okay, well, in aeronautical engineering, what do you do? And they might say, this person might say, well, he or she has worked for 30 years or 20 years on the wing electrical units of the F-15, okay? And so then we've narrowed it down. We've really narrowed it down. So now we can say that we are trying to get an EB-1 for someone who is at the very top of their field, and their field is aeronautical engineering for the F-15 wing components, okay? And there you have narrowed down the type of competition per se that you would otherwise have to do if you kept the field more broader. So when I do an EB1, first thing I do, narrow down that field as narrow as it can realistically go, and then go and prepare everything that needs to be prepared. Now, what are some of the advantages to doing an EB1 anyways? You're probably thinking, well, why do you have to go through all this to try to get on an EB1? Well, here's a couple. Let's just say that someone has a bachelor's degree and they go for a regular perm. And let's just pretend they file it today and it's approved tomorrow. They're going to have to wait 5 to 8 years for the visa number to become current to be able to benefit from that perm petition. That's one of the advantages, and with the EB1 is it's current. At least right now it's current. Who knows what will happen in the future, but I doubt there's ever going to be enough EB1 petitions to backlog in the visa system. So that's one thing. Once it would be approved, you can jump right forward and adjust your consulate process to get the green card. You can do derivative petitions for your family, being spouse and unmarried children under 21. Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing is you don't have to have a petitioner. Strangely enough, you do not have to have a company or an employer petition you for an EB1. Now, with most of the other employment-based petitions, you must have an employer willing to petition you, and they have to jump through a bunch of hoops, and you know, you're obligated, of course, to work for the company and so forth. With an EB1, even though, of course, you will have worked for companies for many years, you do not need one to petition. So therefore, you can essentially work wherever you want in the field of expertise as you go forward. So in that respect, that's a big advantage. So we have two big advantages. One, you don't need to have a petitioner petition you, an employer petition you. And two, there's no visa backlog on the EB1. And three, once it goes through, everything's much faster anyways with the processing. Not that the EB1 petition itself is processed very fast, because in fact it does take a while to put it together and so forth. So now let's jump in and see what's required. What things do you need in order to show? Well, in addition to continuing to work in this area of extraordinary ability, there has to be, and you have to show that your entry will substantially benefit prospectively the United States. Now, there's no actual evidence that's required of that, but you need to, you know, if your attorney's doing the case, that attorney needs to make a reasonable argument how it will benefit the U.S. And to be honest, if you can show you're an EB1 caliber, then it's not too difficult to show how it will benefit the U.S. Now, there's two major different ways to prove that you are within this area of EB1 caliber. Okay, the first, and this is the one that never walks in the door. Okay, basically the one where you have won an international award such as the Nobel Peace Prize. Okay, in that particular respect, you know, it's easy to get it, but then how many people with Nobel Peace Prizes walk in your door? So the other is you have to show documentation of 3 of 10 listed items, and things such as receipt of lesser internationally recognized prize or awards, membership in associations in the field in which classification is sought, published materials about the person and the profession, participation as a judge in the work of others, evidence of original scientific, scholastic, artistic, or business-related contributions with major significance, authorship of scholarly articles in the field, artistic exhibitions or showcases, performance in a leading role for organizations, high salary compared to others in the field, and commercial success in the performing arts. So there are 10 different items of which you need to show 3. Now, what I always do is I always show as many as I can. It doesn't matter that there's only, for example, 3 that need to be shown, because you never know if you're going to win or get this approved. So if you have 7 of them, You try to get all 7 of them in there, and from there, what will happen is if it's approved, you're in and all of your derivatives. So again, it's not real easy to show this, but if you can put a good petition together, show EB1 caliber, then it's a great way to get in. And if you have a good lawyer, one can be creative on how you are at the top of your field in order to get it approved. Okay, more on the